Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching. Then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Platzoid, Chocolate Sane, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
Goedemiddag.
Yo, yo.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Not from the self-contained flat plane.
Ditto that, 10th.
So, a few people have got in touch with me saying that Mr. Sensible's released a video, and initially I just assumed that it would be some claim to be proof from the sky vacuum, which is what I responded to the person who drew my attention to it, although I haven't actually watched the video. But after about the 10th comment, I got the conclusion that this person's actually drawing the conclusion that we can see a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon. That would be a physical horizon from an altitude. Now, the reason I gleaned that is because someone was saying, oh, he can claim that he sees the curve of the Earth from this altitude, even though Neil deGrasse Tyson says you can't see it from much higher. It's like, okay, so this is actually a reification of a horizon into a physical Earth curve edge that needs addressing, albeit from potentially within what is claimed to be our atmosphere. It's not necessarily refutable with the sky vacuum debunking. Moreover, the fact that we haven't got a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon. The horizon's not a physical location. It's not the edge of a sphere to go over. It's not capable of measurement, it moves with the weather, it has no geometric properties for you to derive an R value from. We've debunked that with the black swan. At best, you've debunked the radius, according to the words of Mr. Sensible, who's apparently the purveyor of this particular video. So, here we go. This is based on this article. Thank you, Chocolate. I'll put it up for the audience. So yeah, it's based on this. So if this is claimed to be a physical geometric sphere edge with a curve, then you're claiming you can see physicality in the horizon. And the whole point of you telling us that you can't see a geometric horizon is because we've debunked that notion. It moves. You don't have a physical location for boats to go over or to obscure things or to curve at altitude. So Mr. Sensible of all people, the reason you're saying at best you've debunked the radius is because we can't see Earth curve physicality in the horizon. That's why you've had to make that statement based on the black swan. So what, you just think you can ship up a balloon or use somebody else's and say that suddenly it's a physical Earth curve edge? These people are morons. They don't understand the wide-reaching implications of the black swan argument. We don't have a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon. Bunch of clowns.
Nathan, I watched the video and the guy is total moron. So much double speak from the beginning. He's even trying to prove pressure gradients in the same video, saying we don't agree on pressure gradients because he's showing pressure gradients. Then he's showing the balloon actually balling up. He actually shows entropy when the balloon pops and says that is now showing there's no containment. And then he shows barrel distortion, which is now his Earth curve with a skew line that isn't even straight on the screen.
Okay, I'm glad you've summarised it. So it's just a load of useless old assertions that are continually, I should say, daily addressed on this show.
Yep, it's bullshit.
No worries. Surprise, surprise. Just a load of useless assertions that are all wrapped up in the housekeeping questions. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without necessary antecedent of a container. So, for example, just before you answer, if you're going to answer, if you have that balloon in this example that's popping, well, what's happening is the balloon has a gas in it, and it's contained by the balloon, until the pressure exceeds what the container can contain, and then it pops. But what happens then? Well, the gas expands in all directions to fill the availability of whatever volume it has to fill. It doesn't fall back down, go boom boom, unless it's part of some cycle and changing state. So it expands in all directions. So if the sky above it, the black area in these pictures above it, was a vacuum, then that's an area for the gas to fill. Hey, QE. Of course, we're running an hour ahead, aren't we, for you?
I got a question.
Hey,
Sorry.
go ahead, Ben.
I got. It's,
No,
it's just.
I'll just try once more. Hey, hello, QE. Good to have you.
Don't worry about it. He's getting his chocolate milk or something.
Go
He
ahead,
needs to
Darwin.
get breakfast anyway.
Go ahead, Darwin.
Way too early for him. Yeah. I had a question about gases, not about how they expand, because I know how that works. But are there any type of gases that you can see, or are all gases absolutely transparent? They might have refraction qualities, but are they all perfectly transparent, or are there
I've seen
colored gases?
It's in the bromine example, right?
I don't
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you got the bromine that you could clearly see equalizing in that tube.
But bromine is a gas?
Yeah,
Yes,
Okay.
obviously
And it
bromine's
has a color,
gas.
right?
Yes.
Okay, good to know.
No, it's fair enough. If it's not first apparent, I suppose it is a black and white film. So, but obviously you could only make that demonstration visually apparent if you could see what was going on, and you can in that example. So,
Right. Yeah,
Can
I
we go
wasn't
back-
sure because I wasn't sure whether it was dust that is basically floating in that gas like that, like smoke, or if it was really the gas that is colored itself. Wasn't sure.
if it was suspended particles, then they'd be more dense than the medium, and they'd fall to the bottom of the chamber, as opposed to it being distributed evenly. So no.
Well, they would have, if one chamber is vacuum and the other isn't, then they would be sucked along with the gas into the other chamber.
I'm sure, but in the meantime, when the valve is closed, you've essentially got everything reaching equilibrium. It's expanded as much as it can into the volume that it can to create the pressure it's going to create. That's all happened within an instant once they filled that chamber with the valve on it. But if there was something suspended in it, yeah, it might stay suspended for a certain period of time and eventually drop to the bottom if it was more dense. And yeah, once you open the valve, it might very well, the inrush might pull some of the particulates with it, but it doesn't change that it would be more dense.
Okay.
since we're still kind of on the first, sorry, Owen, since we're still on the first question, you think we could go back to that? Did we speak about that Neil deGrasse Tyson from that post from that flat Earth debunking site? Apparently, did we talk about that at all? Because that's new to me. I just read into that this morning, so I don't know. It's kind of funny. I wanted to see if we could pull it apart a little bit. Just pull out
I've
some
got it back
irony.
got it back up on screen. I thought I smashed this into the middle of the next week. I can just do it with 2 words, right? Black Swan.
Oh yeah. But I just want to point out some of the irony in this, right? Because I'll read it out if anybody wants to. They're not looking at the screen. So it says Neil deGrasse Tyson once incorrectly stated that it is still too low to see Earth's curvature from the height of Felix Baumgartner's jump. In reality, we should be able to see it. Flat earthers believe people like Neil's remarks as gospel and use it to dismiss any observations of Earth's curvature. But we have no problem saying Neil was wrong. It is okay to be wrong as long as we are willing to revise our views when faced with new facts. And we are certain Neil will. So basically, what is it? What do they do? Are they setting Neil up to make a retraction for his statements?
No, they're not. No.
No.
No. Let me explain what's happening.
No Coriolis retraction?
Let me explain. It's a very similar thing, though, Armin. Yes. So when you have an issue that requires doublespeak, it requires 2 different levels of discussion. You've got the high priest, who makes the rhetoric clear. Now, I'm going to make a little disclaimer here, because mathematically he is actually wrong. So you should see the curve of the Earth from ground level. Yep, you should be able to photograph it. It's calculable in the Earth curve calculations. Now we're talking about left to right curve in an image, even though they're calculating it based on Muppet vision. We won't get into the aspects of how they do it, but ultimately they've got an advanced section in their calculator that tell how much you should be able to see of the curve of the Earth. And it's claimed in a panorama, which we've done and calculated with the Isle of Man, that you should be able to see left to right curvature from the ground, increasing in its curviness as you raise in altitude. Now he's potentially saying you wouldn't notice it's so insignificant. That aspect, which he would undoubtedly argue were he would be put to task, he would say, well, it's so unnoticeable even at cruising altitude. Even from Felix Baumgartner's height, it's not as noticeable as the comparison he's making, which is between that and fisheye. That's what his comparison is in full context. So Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, the curve of the Earth isn't like it looks in Felix Baumgartner, that's fisheye lens. Now, you can't see curve of the Earth from that altitude, meaning it's so insignificant, it's so slight that you wouldn't even perceive it. That's what he's would be, and I'm speaking on his behalf here, and reasonably so if you were a glober, but I don't care. That's what he'd say. I'm making a comparison between what people think the Earth looks like when you go up a little bit in height, which is only a tiny bit above this beach ball when I reify it into the Earth, and you wouldn't see curve from that height. Now, does that mean that mathematically it's not calculable, and if you took an image, you could be able to just about make it out and measure it to a small degree? In their claim, this is the point, that the horizon's physical, an Earth curve edge that's bending. It isn't. We've debunked that, but they need to ask 2 levels of doublespeak because they haven't got a physical Earth curve edge for a horizon. So you need one side to say it will bend at altitude, the other to say it won't, so that you argue all day about not whether or not it's a physical Earth curve edge, whether or not it would be bent. What would be bent? Well, the Earth curve edge that we're automatically reifying when we have this argument. So we're all clear. The horizon's a physical Earth curve edge in this argument. We're just discussing whether or not that reified Earth curve horizon edge that boats go over is bent or not, given out. That's all we're arguing about. That's why they set it up in this way. So they're saying flat earthers argue that it wouldn't be bent. What, the physical Earth curve edge that you're reifying in this example? No, well, we don't do that anymore here. We say, no, the horizon's not an Earth curve edge. What do you mean it's bending? Who cares? Meaningless. It's not physical Earth curve edge. It's not an obstruction. It's not geometric. You can't measure it. It's not physical. So who cares what it's doing at any altitude? You want to argue about whether it's straight or not? Who cares? It's not physical. It's not an Earth curve. Boats aren't going over it. It's not physically blocking stuff. It moves with the weather. You haven't got a physical entity that's a physical sphere edge to measure with geometry. So who cares what it's doing? This is completely pointless. We've debunked the notion they're utilising in this example and want us to argue about whether or not it's flat or straight or curved and bent. Nah, we're not going to fall for it.
Exactly.
The horizon's not physical.
Yes.
It's not an Earth curve edge.
Yep, it is hilarious to me. But my favorite line, though, is we are willing to revise our views when faced with new facts.
New facts.
I find that- right.
Okay, well,
That's fine.
new fact, shock horror, the horizon's not a physical Earth curve edge. You're telling us that. So this isn't like it's a fact from your side that we've suddenly debunked. No, your side are telling us how you don't have physical geometry in your Earth curve edge horizon that you measure and get R from and are now claiming is physically curving in line with a sphere Earth physicality that it doesn't have. Moving on. Any evidence of
only a
axial
model.
rotation?
Yeah, you need reference frames for that, so.
They've been ruined, says Simon Dan.
Well, I didn't see any drift from Mr. Sensible's video.
No. I mean, I'm sure they did send something up into the sky, but we'd expect Earth to turn underneath it as a second reference frame if Earth was a spinning sphere with 15 degrees an hour drift. That would be you turning underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour, as is claimed to be the case on a globe Earth that spins. 15 degrees an hour drift as you turn underneath stuff, not attached? That doesn't happen. Earth isn't spinning. Nothing's drifting away from you. Drones don't drift away 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. Don't take off in a hot air balloon and find you land in a different country because Earth turned underneath at 15 degrees an hour. It's absurd. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Mustn't we first know what the sun is before we can try and make a distance to it?
Yep. It's over there.
Shout out to Sandra.
It is.
Coolpix P1000 and P900 is the name of her channels. Coolpix P900 being, I think, the most popular. And she just did some sunspot videos this morning. And they were good enough for me to sit in front of my kid and say, look, see that? Senor Sol? This is what it looks like if you can actually look at it. Because obviously I've explained that she's not to be staring at the sun. It's my eldest daughter. But it was great to show Sandra's video and say, look, this is what it looks like when you've got really good imagery of it with the sunspots moving. It was ace. So check out Sandra's videos. They're really, really good. Oh, there you go. She's in the chat.
Those sunspots.
She's in the chat. Check her out.
Those sunspots. Do they actually rotate clockwise or?
Well, they moved across it in a kind of diagonally kind of motion on her video today. I've seen them move in all sorts of different ways. They can wagon wheel their way around. They do all sorts.
Cool. So then how can they claim it's spinning if it keeps changing directions?
I could infer that. I could very easily infer that by the way it looks on a given day. I've seen sunspot videos where I could really easily say, there you go, it's spinning. Because it kind of looks like something that I see on the ground when I've got it and I can verify it's a sphere shaped and I spin it. It kind of looks a bit like this. Therefore, it is that. You know, I can just draw that correlation and declare it so. You know what else I could do? I could look at the spectrum of light it gives off. There's many things I can do with the sun and draw parallels and inferences and then just declare them as so. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope. It moves with you.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Reification fallacy.
Good answer. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Well, did anyone see that article I posted? Probably not this morning.
Right now I win.
It was terrible, but let me find it. Right. Scientists detecting mini black holes may indicate the existence of parallel universes. That one.
Okay. So we're in the Stephen Hawking. Okay, yeah, go carry on.
Well, I basically posted a comment in there. I wonder if they're going to delete it or leave it there, saying, scientists, you say, what's their independent variable in their hypothesis? How are they going to vary and manipulate it to prove the cause of the effect, their phenomenon within their hypothesis? Oh, wait, they couldn't? All they did was stare at lights in the sky and draw conclusions without testing it empirically? Oh well, there's always pseudoscience, where you can just call yourself scientist and the culturally brainwashed masses won't be able to tell the difference.
Epic comment.
Thanks. I'll post the link in the YouTube chat.
Cool. Are you subscribed
But yeah,
to Sandra?
the article is just nonsense.
Are you subscribed to Sandra by chance?
Sandra?
Yeah.
I think so.
P900
think so, yeah.
Cool pics.
Mhm.
Any chance you can dig out a sunspot video and post it as well so people can go and subscribe to it? You can't actually click on their name anymore in the chat and just.
Yeah, I know.
If you could,
I know,
that'd be really
super
handy.
annoying.
Little did you know when you begged me for a moderator status that actually be running around getting links for people.
Yeah. Wait, I have to find her first.
I'll leave you to it. Any evidence that we can have gas pressure without a container? We did half cover this earlier.
Here it is. Not the evidence of gas pressure without a container, but P900 Coolpix channel.
Subscribe today.
Can I read this just for a second?
Putting the link in the chat right now.
Thank you for your running commentary, Arwin. That's just so helpful. Thank you for doing it. Go ahead,
Right.
Paul.
Now that you're asking the housekeeping question, I want to follow up my earlier inquiry about the bromine gas and whether it is really colored in its gaseous form. Because now I was thinking, the ballers have earlier on showed that, the very heavy gas and then using a boat to float on it in an aquarium and all that, right? But that gas is perfectly transparent, so you literally don't see anything. Well, we always reply to that, but yeah, entropy will cause that gas to eventually dissipate, right? But
Yeah.
you can't see it. You literally can't see it, except for that any boat on it might eventually sink to the bottom.
Yeah,
But you don't know where the gas is going exactly. Well, with bromine, you could see such a thing. So I was wondering, how heavy is bromine compared to the natural atmospheric gases? Is it heavier, or is
it's
it
not
as heavy or lighter? Or?
compared to sulfur.
Just real quick, Nathan.
just
Do you
let me
have
answer him so he can move
Discord
past.
muted?
Sorry again.
Do you have Discord muted?
No.
I was told everybody's muted.
Can you hear us in Discord?
Me? John isn't muted.
I'm not in Discord.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
It's all good, chocolate. So it's like orders of magnitude less dense, bromine versus sulfur hexafluoride, which is man-made and intentionally dense, but, well, not intentionally, for the purposes of that demonstration, intentionally dense. But would it ruin the magic trick if you could see the gas? Because then it
I know.
Water.
I know, but I don't want to help that magic trick. It's rather the demonstration of what we say, that it eventually dissipates. Now, if you take a room in like a very big aquarium, very, very big, like a cubic 2 meter square, cube, sorry, and within it, another aquarium with that bromine gas in it, and yeah, kind of ensure that it's going to stay there for at least a while by dividing up the pressures within the room. It's going to be slightly complicated because I want to see how it actually gradually dissipates. And
Boil
with
a kettle.
bromine gas, you could visibly see
Yeah,
that.
just
So
boil a
that
kettle.
would be interesting. How would it dissipate?
Boil a kettle.
Yeah, but that's very different type of gas and different
So what?
situation.
Just fills the space.
I know
cigarette
that, but I want
smoke?
to see how it does it. How it mixes in. Kind of like the ink in water, you can see it, how it dissolves. I want to see how the bromine gas will dissipate within the confine.
Okay. I mean, if you want to see entropy in a much easier fashion, it is easier to show with a liquid. Just drop a bit of dye in a big load of liquid and watch it dissipate.
Of course, but still, liquid is different. It's not a gas. See, that's
What you're saying. I get what you're saying, Arwin.
is visible,
Paul's been waiting for a while now, and I want Paul to get to his point. But what you're saying is you want to see something that's very dense, like sulfur hexafluoride, but coloured, so that you can see the entropy increase with a dense gas. So it's obviously going to be a much quicker increase than my dye example, but it's going to be much slower than just opening a valve on bromine. So you want to see something that's a gas that's coloured with a just quick enough entropy increase to see it visually. You don't ask for much, do you?
Right. I just want to see how it spread out. Basically, what are the turbulence patterns of its spreading out? Where is it going to spread out? Is it literally going in all directions, gradually, slowly, or does it take other forms to spread around?
Sure. Couldn't you do it with dry ice? Isn't there a whole load of examples that you could do it with where you can see a gas initially and then you could just watch it dissipate and fill the space? Isn't there a ton of examples? Anyway, can we get to Paul before we constantly...
Yeah, sure. It's okay.
It is interesting. Go ahead, Paul. He's probably got a baby crawling on him now.
Well, yeah, she's screaming in the background, so she might chime in. 2 comments. Actually, oxygen is blue, because if you put it, if it becomes a liquid, it looks blue in a container. I've actually seen it. And the other thing is, how, back to the multiverse issue, how could you use your physics in this world to try to discover the physics in another world?
You can't.
It's just more of a question.
You can't. It's just Narnia physics. No, conceptual mediums again, parallel universes, working in conceptual mediums, wormholes, time dilation. It's all bollocks. It's all conceptual. None of it applies to us. None of it applies.
That stuff is not real?
No, none of it's real. None of it is real.
So how are they traveling in space? How are the astronauts doing what they're doing? And NASA, how's NASA doing what they're doing? If it's
They're
not real?
They're not. They aren't doing what they say they're doing. They're not travelling in a sky vacuum. There is no sky vacuum, right? And space-time, just a name given to a conceptual geometry, right? That's all it is. Now, the fact that they also call a fake place space and claim to travel through it, and then they claim that their mathematical reifications are that place, doesn't mean that place is real. There is no outer space. It's fake. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would just fill the space. That's it. We'd have no gas to breathe if the sky was a vacuum. So any claim that comes from that place is fake, automatically.
Nathan, that was excellent, because I'm online in a place called Bed Bath & Beyond, and I said that just so the guy in front of me could hear it.
What, you want to ruin people's day?
Yeah. I see he's got
Fair enough. Yeah, Earth is flat, the sky is not a vacuum, we're not spinning.
It's the first time I did it. I got to do it more often.
We can thank Conspiracy Cats for the new line now, because now they're parroting what he said from the Pontiff Maximus of Retardia and Hillbilly Blue Balls, Redneck Retard. Gas pressure and pressurized gas are different. Go to Ballbusters. There's a little clip. It's just a raw clip. It's real short.
So
you're asking the wrong question, Rakia.
I know it is.
The thing is you need a container to have pressurized gas, not gas pressure.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Yep. What? Cats. Now they're going to start parroting this shit. You people are frigging morons. Thanks.
Yeah, all they're doing, I can see their logic though. What they're doing is trying to take a distinguishing point between taking any gas in our, I'll use their vernacular, atmosphere, and making it of a higher pressure, i.e. than the air surrounding it. They're calling that pressurized gas, and they're saying to achieve gas at a higher pressure than the already existing atmospheric pressure, but without saying that, is with a container. Now, the only place they can go with that is to their fundamentalist sky vacuum belief, and to say, well, we already have gas pressure here. I don't even have to account for it. It's like, well, that's the whole point of our question. How do we have the gas pressure here? The gas pressure you're starting with? Well, they just have a fundy assertion that it's a sphere-shaped air with a sphere-shaped air law and gravity. So they're just going to justify the fact that we've got gas pressure here as being gas pressure without a container off the back of that. So no, we can't have pressurized gas without a container, but we can have gas pressure. It's all around you. That's all they're going to do.
Can you take a measure of the pressure of gas that's not pressurized?
No, nature abhors a vacuum. So no, you don't have naturally occurring vacuums to measure the difference between gas pressure and no gas pressure. The gas pressure that was around.
What is this non-pressurized?
So then how do we have a gas pressure here? Measurement. How do they measure that gas pressure?
What is non-pressurized gas exactly?
The lack of gas.
That's what I'm trying to understand. Because they're saying, well, you could have you need a container to have pressurized gas, but not gas pressure. What?
It makes no sense.
Okay, I don't mind. I don't mind rephrasing it and saying the air we're breathing is very much pressurized gas. That's what we're breathing. Pressurized gas is what's going in and out of your lungs right now, ladies and gentlemen. Does it make any difference that I change it from gas pressure to pressurized gas? We are breathing pressurized gas. And according
Why
to
do you
them,
have
hold
pressurized
on.
gas?
No. Let's quickly turn this from some negative into a rose. So let's get it straight. They're saying on the globe side, you can't have pressurized gas without a container. Am I correct in that assertion? Is that their current declaration? I just need an affirmative from somebody.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Is it my correct summary to state that the globe side in the trenches currently would declare as follows: you can't have pressurized gas without a container? Would that assertion from my summary of the globe side's position be correct?
Yes.
Yes.
But you can have gas pressure without a container.
Okay, thank you. Therefore, the fact I am breathing pressurized gas by their own declaration means we must have containment. So they are agreeing with us at last.
Exactly. Because
I don't
if
think
it's not pressurized.
I don't think it needs any more evaluation or assessment. It's just the Elmer Fudd. They think they're clever, right? They're friggin' Elmer Fudd doofuses. Pressurized gas is gas pressure. Gas pressure is pressurized gas. We could just leave it there and move on.
I think it's just all distractions for their main entrance point, which is literally denying natural law and gas pressure expansion within a vacuum. That's really what they're holding on to. You know, they rather just bring
everyone's down in the mouth. They're missing the point.
Distractions and just per default ignore natural law. It seems to be okay with a lot of things.
No, they're not. You're missing the point. You're all down in the mouth like they're being Elmer Fudd because they're trying to convolute the difference between gas pressure and pressurized gas. No. Finally see this for what it is. They are conceding. A bit like saying we can't have a geometric horizon. Well, they're saying we can't have pressurized gas without a container, and I'm breathing it. That's a concession.
Exactly.
So they're conceding.
They think
That's why Arwin,
container.
that's why I asked the question that I asked. Can you measure the pressure of gas that's not pressurized? And then what did you say? Can you have gas that's not pressurized? Exactly.
But don't they
So
think that
we have a gas pressure here, right? 14.7 we talk about all the time at sea level, right? So if it wasn't pressurized, how would they have that number in the first place?
They've told us we need containment, so they've conceded. They've said you can only achieve pressurized gas by way of containment, paraphrasing their position. Well, therefore, they concede.
Gravity is their containment.
It doesn't matter what they claim in their fundy belief. They're conceding the point. They can move on to say, for example, let's take it onto a different subject. I assume the Earth and atmosphere travel together. Doesn't matter. Assume all you like. There's supposed to be a drift proving that we're spinning. There isn't. The fact that you try and justify the fact we haven't with some belief about what it does is irrelevant. They believe that gravity holds gas away from a vacuum. I couldn't care less. To have pressurized gas, according to them, we need containment. And I'm breathing it. So we've got to have containment by their own concession.
and they have it, according to them.
What, in a form of a not actual force? Oh, well, that's going to get them far here, isn't it?
Yes.
No,
They have a
no,
hole in
it's not.
space called the bending of space-time, which is in a fictional medium, but to it, it's like, in pseudo-Riemannian force space, gas can go down, go boom, boom, within that framework, and basically end up in a hole, like water in a hole, and that
Yes.
hole would be the center of Earth.
I get it. A gravity
how
well.
they
Yes,
see
yes,
it.
yes. I understand.
That's why it works in their minds.
I know why they think it works in their pseudo geometry. And I covered it earlier. Not real. What was the word I used earlier? Bollocks. None of this stuff is real. All of this pseudo conceptualization reified into existence by way of a not actual force that if you're a fundy and you want to believe in this stuff, you can think of as a force. It's not. There's not really a force of gravity at all. Now, that's a mixture of quotes from PhDs on this subject, specialists, who say it's not a force. Now, I know it's not a force because it's a mathematical reification of pseudo-geometry. Now, that might be a lot of words for people who are new here, but it means it's not real. Pseudo. So it's not a force. It's not holding gas here. That's just what they say works in their model. And we don't live in their model. We're living in a reality. And it's governed by natural law, not by pseudo-geometry and mathematical reifications and globe models. That's not how gas works. Gas fills availability of volume. That's how gas works. Not, I've got a conceptually bending medium that holds it here as a container. Well, didn't you just mention, Fundies, that you can't have pressurised gas without a container? So if I draw you a picture of Earth and go, what's that on the surface of it? Is it pressurised gas? Well, where's the container? Oh, there isn't one, making this pressurised gas ludicrous in this image of Earth with pressurised gas on the outside of it without a container.
Nathan,
So should
the
we start
container
asking
is
them?
right there. Just walk outside.
Should
There
we
isn't a
start
container
asking them,
outside. They
can you
claim in their
take a-
model that outside the sky is a vacuum, not a container, quite the antithesis, in fact. An empty space. Quite the antithesis of a container, Arwin.
Now, but that's just on the top of it. You know, that's outer. This is the Earth, so it all just it stays here, and then eventually, when you go up high enough, then you might be sucked in. Yeah, it might be
Oh,
sucked
God.
in, but not here. You know, because it is contained by the natural abilities of space. Basically.
No.
So,
The container is the bit around the space that defines how much space. That's the container. The space inside the container is the space. Now, the two things are very different. The space is the volume. Now, the volume isn't the bit you can press on. That's the container. So to say, well, the container is the space. No, the space is the space. And the amount around it in surface area would make up the containment and dictate how much space there is inside it. But the space isn't a container. And if the sky was a space, what do they call it again? Oh yeah, space. That's not a container. That's an area that the gas can fill. Meaning that we don't have that area. It's nonsense to assert that the sky is just a massive space, 10 to the minus 17 torr. No, it isn't. Absurd.
Not all vacuum is the same, Nathan.
I need to know if anybody could provide a measurement of pressure for gas that is not pressurized. I need that.
All gas would have
But it is
pressure.
pressurized.
There is no such thing. It's just
That-
nonsense.
But that's what they're saying. They're
No,
trying
they're not.
to distinguish now.
No, they're not saying that. They're leaving you. That's not what's happening, Chocolate. They're leading you to engage them in an argument about what pressure is, about what defines pressurized gas, not about whether or not the sky vacuum is real. Let's just argue about pressurized gas, like arguing about whether the horizon's bent or straight. Not about whether or not it's actually a physical Earth curve edge, reified by mathematics. Oh, how so similar these arguments are, and all of them. Mathematical descriptions for things that aren't real and aren't in existence. Well, why are we arguing about the difference in vernacular about pressurized gas versus gas pressure? Who cares? The sky is not a vacuum, and gas expands. I don't care what you call it. You want to call it pressurized gas or pressure? I don't care. My argument is that it's going to expand to fill a volume, an availability of space, and space by them is claimed to be a space, and gas expands to fill it.
I get it. I love the concession of you need a container for pressurized gas. I fucking love it. But
There
I'm
is a
saying,
container. There's a container. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there, because we can breathe. And yet,
It's ve-
and
Yeah, that's
yet
our
we live
argument.
in
I'm
an
just-
outer space
I'm just
universe.
trying to point it out. I'm just trying to irony for people who look at this shit like I do. Like you're saying, you don't need a container for gas pressure, but you need one for pressurized gas. Well, you have a measurement for gas pressure here, right? We have a PSI. So how did you get that if it's not pressurized? is my
I
point.
covered this earlier. I'll just
chocolate
try again. Just
barometer.
listen closely. Just everyone shut up. No. They're out from this next step isn't not gas pressure, but atmospheric pressure. So what we have is a circumstance where we have existing gas pressure because it's defined by them as atmospheric pressure. So they've got a fundamentalist belief of sphere-shaped air, not contained air, not taking shape of container, just in an arbitrary sphere shape, held here by gravity. in their model with their maths, not in reality. So you can't have pressurized gas without a container. Oh, we have atmospheric pressure here already. Isn't that convenient? No, that's what we're asking, how you would achieve it if the sky was a vacuum. So it's one step removed from our original question. Our question, how can you have gas here if the sky is a vacuum? Now they're focused on one word, gas pressure, because it's got to be pressing on something to be gas pressure. But our argument is actually in rebuttal to their claim in the first instance. So they say, sky a vacuum, out of space, pictures from it. And we say, no, not out of space. Gas would fill it as it expands in all directions. I'm not too concerned about the pressure it would be at. I'm more concerned with the fact that it would expand into that space that they claim is there. But if you can take it one step away and argue about what it is to be a gas at pressure, then you're no longer arguing about the sky vacuum, are you? And the lack of a sky vacuum if it was actually an area for gas to fill as it expands in all directions. Let's not be too concerned about what pressure it isn't if the sky was a vacuum, because we wouldn't have any to be worrying ourselves about how much pressure differential you've got when you've got an extra container, as they're arguing, versus atmospheric pressure, a fundy belief in a model. That's where they're going.
Yeah, they don't understand. You first have to have the containment before you can have the gas. So either their space is not a vacuum, or they have a dome.
Nathan, I think, hey everybody, I think a better argument with them is based off of the video you made with George Netchuk from that thing you had with him on Ranties. Is that what is the size of, ask him what is the size of your volume? Because the gas will fill that volume. The volume is the container. So what is the size of your volume? And they won't be able to give you a size. So that means that they could not ever have, like originally there could never have been gas pressure formation.
Exactly.
Because their volume is too huge. That way they can't even get to the whole gradient argument, which is not, it's nonsense, but they still do it.
All I did with George Netanyahu was point out the fundamentals of the argument. That's all I did. So in the case of this picture here, let's pretend for a second that this is the ISS instead of Superman. This is how you've been brainwashed to have this imagery, by the way. Nevertheless, this area here is a sky vacuum, right? Well, that's a volume. That's your V. That's the space it can fill, and it does absolutely have a value according to them. But you've got high pressure gas not filling it. So when you ask them, well, to have the gas and to calculate how much pressure it's going to be at, you say we're at 14.7 psi here. The way you calculate that is with the volume that you've got. Well, what's your volume? Well, their volume's the whole of space. Because irony, oh irony, they've called it space. Probably so someone somewhere can laugh at us about it. Yeah, we'll call it space. The space the gas ain't filling.
Yeah. But, as Rompa said, the only one actually trying to just bend natural law, the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth.
Paraphrased as, the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the heliocentric model. Not Earth. Earth is a sphere in his model.
But he said that, though.
Yeah, but when he says Earth, he means Earth a sphere in a heliocentric model. The second law doesn't apply to that. Because all the stars, which are gas... Because all the stars that are gas would fill the volume that they've got to fill. Well, they've got a fundamental second law of thermodynamics violation in every single one of their twinkly lights they think are massive giants of gas. So, yeah, the second law doesn't apply to their
how
model.
would any gas coalesce in a vacuum?
It wouldn't. Their entire model is a second law of thermodynamics violation. The entire model. So when he says it doesn't apply to their model that we don't live on.
Where was that law discovered again? Just wondering.
The natural law, the one applicable to things in nature, on a real surface that we all dwell atop. I hesitate to use the word Earth because when they say it, on the basis that they've got a Earth belief as a sphere, they mean Earth a sphere in a heliocentric model doesn't have the second law of thermodynamics applied to it. It's a natural law, Paul. Yeah, discovered here. Terra, that's where.
But Nathan, would you be able to show me a natural vacuum anyway?
No, you can't. There are no natural vacuums.
So that doesn't already debunk argument.
Doesn't the word Earth actually just
Well,
refer to the
pressure
ground?
nature, but not vacuum.
Depends on who you are and what context you're speaking in. We're surrounded by magicians. Earth can mean a lot of things. So contextually, as a fundamentalist religious zealot asserting their globe belief, and you say the second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth is his Earth as a sphere in a model with the second law of thermodynamics not applied. He's overtly stating it. Well, does it apply to the world that we live in? Yeah, absolutely. It's a natural law. It's just a declaration, ham-handed, that we're not living in that model. Because if we did live in that model, which is impossible, that's a reification, but if it was representative, at least, of the world we do live in, it would have the second law of thermodynamics absolutely at its heart. And it hasn't. It's not even applicable to their model. The heliocentric model doesn't sit in line with natural law. That's our argument. When they overtly state it like it's a defence, well, that doesn't apply to the Earth. He means his Earth, in his model, that we don't live on.
Can I read out a comment I left on your video concerning this?
Yeah, feel free.
Nathan, thank you. 1 second now. Right. I wrote, started with, it's classic PV equals nRT, as the volume is the potential area that the gas can occupy. And in the heliocentric model, the potential area for volume is the vastness of outer space, which is an unimaginably huge area. This means that the pressure is in direct correlation to the temperature and the volume of the area the gas has to fill. But the volume of outer space is so colossal, the temperature would equalize, as there would not be pressure to give temperature help to form, so we wouldn't be able to exist, as the volume would be too huge to create the pressure, so we will invariably not exist due to an endless volume.
Well, and don't forget, Brian, their volume is constantly expanding. It's not just fixed; it's constantly expanding as well.
I just put in an endless volume, but what you said is actually more correct. They are always expanding in their model.
There's two issues. Number one, they have quantified it. It's 3.58 times 10 to the 80th cubic meters. And number two, what is it expanding into?
Yeah, the question's obviously fascinating and destroys their claim because it's a paradoxical. The model leaves you with a paradoxical question to ask. So well pointed out. But the first question, the first answer, sorry, gives us a space. It gives us a qualifiable amount of space. It gives us a V. Well, we can calculate how much the gas pressure would be at, and I can tell you the answer. And I've done the maths. It's 10 to the minus 17 torr at sea level, based on their volume. That's the pressure that we would have here on Earth. Real Earth, terra firma, where we stand. We would be at 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, we'd be the same pressure. Simple.
It's ironic that the comment I got on that video, the very first comment I got, was from a glober saying, yeah, but what creates the pressure gradient? Like somebody who is just not reading the original comment and understanding it.
They don't understand to have pressure. They just think pressure gradients debunks it, but they're missing the fundamentals of the pressure gradient. I mean, you cannot have a volume. You cannot have any gas without volume. And where does the volume come from?
Well,
Yeah,
we just got it.
They have this.
We just got it from QE. That was the volume. QE gave it us. I can't remember the number. A very, very big number.
3.58 times 10 to the 80th cubic meters.
Wow.
Yeah, but it keeps changing.
But we do have a number to put on it. The fact that it's changing, sliding scale, who cares? Yeah, that's like everything, right? The point is, we can put our finger on a number in their rhetoric. Okay, there you go. There's V. So let's calculate what pressure would be at sea level if we were on their model, or it was comparable to reality. We'd be at 10 to the minus 17 torr. Are we at 10 to the minus 17 torr at sea level? Anybody? Anybody at all?
No, we're not.
So we have
Really
gas
so,
pressure.
no.
We have gas pressure here. So therefore we must be contained. Or we wouldn't have any. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. Simple as that. Quick shout out and promotional super chat from Retro Bill. Thank you very much, first of all, for the super chat. He says, tune in to Quantum Erasers. Very excellent YouTube channel. He's an ace bloke who has a jolly good time smashing fundy wankers. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Retro Bill.
Just another caveat. It's supposed to also be expanding faster than the speed of light. Just a caveat.
The speed of what now? Speed of what
What did
now?
you say?
But I thought nothing could go faster than the speed of light.
Where have we got the speed from now? What's the speed of light now? Speed of what?
I found something interesting if you'll let me read it.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Neil.
Okay. Molecules in our atmosphere are constantly moving, spurred on by energizing sunlight. Some move quickly enough to escape the grip of Earth's gravity. The escape velocity for planet Earth is a little over 11 kilometers per second, about 25,000 miles an hour. Still, all in all, Earth's atmosphere is here to stay.
Sorry, can you just read the fourth word again, Neil?
The what?
Fourth word.
Fourth word?
Mm-hmm.
Constantly atmosphere. Oh yeah, that's that sphere shape. Gas doesn't
Oxymoron.
have a shape, right?
They're saying the law of sphere-shaped air says that the sphere shape of the air is here to stay in a sphere shape around a globe Earth. So because sphere-shaped air law says sphere-shaped air is here to stay, then sphere-shaped air is here to stay. So they've got sphere-shaped air law as their justification for sphere-shaped air staying here, Neil.
You got to mute, Neil.
He's new. He's the newest panel member. I've cut him slack till now.
Talk about escape velocity like it's real. I don't know.
No, it's real within the fundy model that has air-shaped sphere law. Atmo, air. Sphere, fundamentalist religious presupposition. Well, they've got atmo, air. Sphere. Atmosphere. Sphere-shaped air. They're saying sphere-shaped air around a globe's here to stay. Well, the only point of this is to describe it within their model, within their rhetoric, with a description of how an oxymoron of something without containment taking the shape of a sphere will work in their fundy belief and model. It's meaningless nonsense. But some people will hear this description and won't recognise that they're describing something and how it works in a model. In this case, justification with something that's part of the common vernacular. When you say the air we breathe, most people will refer to that as the atmosphere. Well, it's in the atmosphere. Well, they don't realise that that's a magic trick that's suddenly worked on them when they have this description given to them of what the atmosphere does. It's like, no. That's just a magical word they've used so that you think a justification within a model of how atmosphere works and is being held here with gravity, gas go down, go boom, boom, it does not. Well, so what? It's just atmosphere, air law, that's sphere-shaped, oxymoron, air law. No. Gas follows natural law and entropy laws. It'll expand in all directions to fill the availability of the volume it has and take the shape of its container. Does it mandatorily take the shape of a sphere? And go down, go boom, boom, like bouncy balls in a fish tank? No, it doesn't do any of those things. Does it have a force applied to it in pseudo-Ramonian force space with a gravity well? No, because that's not real either. So none of this shit applies.
I'm starting to think that it's not as common knowledge as you're saying it is, because a lot of people will come into 24/7 and tell us how the atmosphere is containing the gas. It's like they're not aware that the atmosphere that we're talking about is supposed to be the gas. So they somehow try to square it off like, oh, the gas is containing the gas, but then they're like, no, but the atmosphere is containing the gas. It's like, guy, the atmosphere is the gas that you're talking about.
Exactly. What they've got is they've got a problem with gas not conforming with their model. Quote, Rumpus, the second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth, end quote, meaning a sphere Earth in a vacuum with gas not following the entropy laws. Well, when you've got that sort of problem, well, what do you need? You need some magical gas that doesn't follow natural law, don't you? Well, what are you going to call your magical gas? Well, let's call it sphere-shaped air. Let's call it air that's a sphere. Let's call it atmosphere. And there's your magical gas that you can bullshit about all day long. Have all sorts of laws written up about it. Easy. If you're a magician needing to create a solution to a problem where your model doesn't conform with actual reality. Well, gas doesn't behave the way the fundies who think they live on a sphere think it does. They've got their own set of rules within a model for how air behaves. Okay? You fundies with your magical beliefs about air behaves.
Yeah, but they also point out gravity, so they're wrong there too. Because they're saying, even if it were, they're saying that the bending of space-time, a conception, can hold gas molecules in. Because it says in this one that it says the short end.
That's right, Neil. Maybe next Tuesday sometime.
He's gone past Bed Bath and Beyond. He's beyond that.
You're robot, Neil.
No, I'm not in there anymore. I'm in a noisy car.
You're breaking up there, Neil.
What a wonderful end to my dramatic speech about atmospheric gas. Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, I just want to know, like, if there is this natural law applying to a sphere of air, could I see in a real world demonstration of this so that I know to which this natural law actually applies?
Exactly. Show me a sphere-shaped air. What's that you say?
I think the whole... Sorry, man.
I was going to say, what's that you say, Globehead Fundy? Here's pictures from a fake place to justify the sphere-shaped air law. A painting of Earth with gas not expanding into a vacuum in violation of natural law is what they will provide. Or they'll give you a mathematical extrapolation. Well, it gets lower as we go higher, therefore it would dissipate to nothing eventually. No, that's a violation of natural law.
What Neil read out.
Has anybody shared this law of atmosphere thing?
Yeah.
I've been hearing about this.
Yeah, we've
Everybody
seen it plenty. Yes.
What Neil read out to me sounded like a weaselly nod to entropy. It's like a kind of half of an admittance that entropy is there and can overcome gravity, although they're not saying it all the time. It's like it does, sometimes entropy does beat gravity. That's what it sounded like to me, without using the word entropy or mentioning it.
I just saw it as a fundy use of the word atmosphere to beg the question of sphere-shaped air that's not expanding into a vacuum. That's all I saw it as. Fourth word in, well, begging the question fallacy of sphere-shaped air is going to get me out of this problem. That's all I saw it as. Or maybe not. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. A massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible, and of course a massive thank you to all of you in the live audience for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing and smashing the super chat. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!